We'll begin. Welcome to Sunday Wisdom Session. And in this session, we take up the last quality of a seeker of truth. And that quality is Paramah, which means setting the self as supreme. Actually, mat means me. And in the conversation, that is the Bhagavad Gita, between Lord Krishna and Arjuna, Krishna refers to me, meaning not his personality. So he's not telling Arjuna, worship me, your friend, Krishna, as the greatest, the highest, the supreme. He's referring to something deeper. He's referring not to the external body and personality of Krishna. He's referring to the essence, the spirit, the Atman, the pure consciousness with which Krishna has identified with. And he's saying, regard that as supreme. So when any prophet or any great sage or thinker refers to me, they're not talking about their personality. When they say follow me, they're not talking about following their habits, following their particular idiosyncrasies. They're not talking about that. They're saying follow the essence of me, because that's what they've identified with. They've not identified with their body. They've not identified with their feelings. They're not identified with mere passing thoughts and ideologies. They've identified with the permanent aspect of their personality. And today's quality is setting self as supreme. So we're going to take apart this statement, Mat Paramaha. Let's go with the first one. Paramaha means supreme. Supreme comes from the Latin words or the etymology super, which means above, beyond, and the extension of that is supremus, which means highest, topmost, or final. So the root is super, which means above, beyond, up, higher. But when you have the superlative of super, you get supremus, which is where our English word supreme is from. So what is that goal, that peak, that pinnacle, that achievement, that experience, which has no higher? Which you cannot go above, you cannot go beyond. You've hit the ceiling. This is it. It's the ultimate. What is that? Regarding me as supreme. So the advice here is regard the self in you as the highest experience, the highest goal a human being can achieve, can realize. So let's identify then, what is that mat, that me? Now when we say me, it's capital M. When we say self, it's capital S, because it is not referring to the body, mind, intellect, the BMI. It's referring to something deeper within your personality, the self. So if you have a look at the constitution of a human being is made up of matter, which we're very familiar with. That is the body, the mind, and the intellect. We've been talking a lot about the intellect managing the mind, managing the body. But more important is the spirit. Matter by itself has got no life, no consciousness. The spirit by itself does not have expression as such. It needs the combination, spirit plus matter, to experience the way we experience. And how do we experience? We experience through perceptions and actions. So that's consciousness plus body, spirit plus body. We also experience the world through feelings. So it's consciousness, spirit, plus mind. And then consciousness plus thoughts, ideas, is the intellect, thoughts. So that makes up the matter component is our ego. And we wrongly attribute our identity to the body, to the mind, to the intellect. Some here in this group might identify more with their intellect, more with their thoughts and ideas. They put categories. They put their nationality. I am Indian. I am Czech. I am Slovakian. I am Brazilian. And we put these different labels on us. Others might identify with the body. If you ask a person, how are you? Their response is, I've got this ache, I've got this pain, I went for this checkup, I went for that checkup, the doctors are saying this, my blood sugar is showing this. Everything is about the body because they identify with the body. And some people would be the mind. I'm not feeling so thrilled today. I'm not feeling so excited. I'm feeling tired. I'm feeling drained. I'm feeling not appreciated, taken for granted. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling anxious. This is identification with the mind. What Vedanta says, why are you identifying with these impermanent aspects of your personality? It's like identifying with your t-shirt. You change your t-shirt. Okay. Does your personality change? No, there's something deeper, there's something longer lasting. So we understand, okay, clothing, very temporary. This is not our personality. What about our body? This body changes every single cell after every 7 years. Incredible. So not one cell. They say some parts of the body's particular cells last a bit longer, but more or less every single cell of your body changes every 7 years. So then you're not a particular cell in the body. So what are you? The brain is also made up of cells. So you're something deeper, and we're not sure what that deeper is. And that's where we go to the subtle body, the mind, the intellect. Okay, am I the mind, the intellect? But your emotions change, your feelings change. What about thoughts? Do thoughts stay the same? Thoughts also change. Ideas change. And that's why we're here, to change our ideas and thoughts. So then, what is the changeless substratum on which these changes take place to say that that is our real personality, noticing all the different changes? Those who've reached it, those who've x-rayed through their personality, who've asked the question and gone to the innermost answer of who am I, they found that it is the self. Capital S, the spirit, God, Atman, Brahman, the state of enlightenment, Nirvana, kingdom of heaven. Regard that as supreme. We don't know it. We don't know this pure consciousness. We only know the combination. We don't know pure consciousness. We don't know God. We don't know the self by itself. And because we're ignorant of it, we go through all suffering and tribulation in the world. Now, how do we change it? Set self as supreme. Number one, the highest. So, Avanya and myself, we've just returned from Kenya. Wonderful lectures there, great outreach to the community, and we were presented in Kenya a mutega, a staff that they give to the leader. Somebody who is meant to guide, somebody who's meant to be the head of the community. And so, very touching idea to present this. But this is it. What is that mutega? What is that leader in our priorities, in our personality? What is that head? where everything else comes below. Growing up in a Catholic school, we used to say the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Thy means? What does thy mean? Old English?
Yours.
Yours. Your will be done. Not my will be done. And that's the whole emphasis of the Lord's Prayer. And we said it, nobody explained this to us growing up in school. No one explained this is the shift. When we say my, we are referring to the small m. We're referring to the ego, the body, mind, intellect. So when we say the prayer, actually we're praying for the body, mind, intellect. We're saying, give me health, give me good looks, give me wealth, give me peace, give me wisdom. So we're always praying and thinking about the ego. My will be done. But the idea of true prayer or setting self as supreme is to change that. Dedicated towards the self, spirit, God. So we're shifting from the ego, the left-hand side, to the right-hand side, the spirit, the self, your real identity, as we saw in the diagram. This is what setting self as supreme is. It's the shift from ego, which is your false, temporary identity, to the real identity that is you. Just as an actor can play different roles, can play on stage Hamlet in a tragedy, can play Romeo in a romantic tragedy, can play Macbeth, plays different characters, but these are temporary roles that he assumes. His real identity is the actor that plays the roles. Now, who is that actor in us? We don't know. And yet, we're happily, blissfully, ignorantly, I'm not sure about happily, but we're ignorantly going through life saying what? I'm a business person. I am a journalist. I'm an actor. I'm a mother. I'm a father. These are all temporary roles that you play. You were not a mother before you had children. What will you be when your children go to university, college? Your identity changes. Or maybe the priority does. But what is the permanent part of you? The mat, the me, my will be done. So, question to the group: why is it that this self is not our priority, is not our supreme? Why don't we set it as the supreme in our life?
Ignorance.
Excellent, Howard. Ignorance. We don't know what the self is. Great. What else?
It's not visible.
It's not visible. Yes. Difficult to know. Unknown.
There's also the existential fear of the unknown, the doubt within us.
We're afraid with the unknown. We don't want to think beyond that. Yes.
We're too busy dealing with everyday life.
We're so caught up with the known. Too busy to think about things that really matter. To even think about.
It's also hard.
It's also hard. It's hard.
Because
Okay.
higher. The values are much higher than immediate gratification.
The values are higher. Yes. We don't get that immediate pleasure. We don't get that tangible enjoyment straight away from this path. Yes.
The flesh, I think, operates on a different level from the spirit.
Exactly. The flesh is visible. The flesh is tangible. And because it's visible, tangible, and there's an immediate gratification that comes with the pleasures of the flesh, the pleasures of the known, we gravitate towards that naturally, not realizing that if we just scratch a little bit beyond the surface, go a little bit further, what treasure, what wealth is there? The trouble with us, all of us, why isn't this our highest priority? Because if it was a question of priority, we would make it our number one thing that we do in the day. We would not sacrifice it. We would not compromise it for an event. We would not compromise it for a dinner engagement. We would not put it aside for anything else if it was our real priority. Just as you might say, I'm too busy. I have a lot of work. But if you were to find out that you have a severe illness, you drop the work. Why? Because health becomes your priority. So similarly, we would change our lives accordingly if we truly understood that finding the self within was our utmost priority, isn't it? So it's not a question of time. It's not a question of availability. It's we don't prioritize it. And the reason why we don't prioritize it, and the reason why we don't have the whole of humanity here with us in this class, at least the English speaking, is because we don't understand its value. The moment we understand, the moment we get to know the value of our own self, the value of self-realization, enlightenment, our priorities will shift. But isn't this what we've been doing our whole lives? We've been shifting from place to place, experience to experience, to areas where we get more value. How do we measure value? Anybody? Practical. How do we measure value?
Level of excitement.
Excitement.
Improvement in life.
Improvement in life.
Success.
Our success.
Satisfaction. Satisfaction of something that you accomplished.
Satisfaction.
Peace of mind.
Peace of mind. It's happiness.
Something. Well, when you
Wealth.
own something.
When we attain. So if we look at these, wealth, achievement, success, right? So we give it value. But the wealth, achievement, the success is indirectly for the goal of happiness. We've not necessarily consciously linked it, but nobody chooses success over their happiness. They just don't realize that they're disconnected. So there's a herd instinct that thinks that with wealth, with success, with achievement comes happiness. They assume it. We take it for granted. And we've been conditioned by the world, probably because we need this kind of drive to keep economies and consumption going, that without it you will be miserable. Not realizing that most people with it are just a different type of misery. The goal in the world, if we say, is to eradicate poverty, by all means a noble aim. But don't think that that will bring any more happiness than we have today. The only thing that will happen is the nature of the problems, the nature of the miseries will change. We are looking for happiness. Aristotle, it puts it so clearly. And perhaps maybe we need to be clear about it too. Ultimately, whatever we do, whatever we pursue, is an investment in our happiness. And we never quite do that quality control to check, is the investment reaping the dividends? Is the investment paying off? We're putting our time. Now you're spending an hour with me. You're putting your effort. What is it reaping? Aristotle says, happiness is the meaning and the purpose of life, the whole aim and end of human existence. This is it. People who pursue the self, who pursue the spirit, are called great renunciates. And material people see the spiritual people as those who have renounced the world. But renunciation is not giving up anything. So it's not giving up the world. It's not giving up worldly pleasures, even pleasures of the flesh, pleasures of the drink, pleasures of food, pleasures of anything, pleasures of the mind, the pleasures of intellectual stimulation. It's not giving up those pleasures, not at all. But it's understanding, and we come back to the word value. It's understanding the real value of anything in the world. Not an exaggerated value, not a value that is overestimated, underestimated, but sees it for what it is. So it knows the limits of what it can do, it also knows what it can achieve. And I'll give one example because we mentioned it. Wealth, success. What is the right value for wealth? If you have the right value for wealth, you will be a renunciate. What is that right value?
What it means to you.
It's a means to an end.
It's a means to an end, okay? So it can definitely assist with certain goals. Yes. What else?
Comfort.
Comfort.
Wealth of the spirit, the abundance of the spirit.
Wealth.
Abundance of the spirit.
Okay. So you're talking about that is the real wealth, right? Abundance of spirit. I was talking more from a financial perspective.
Depends how it's used.
Depends on the use. Yes.
You can buy good bed, but not good sleep.
Nice one. You can buy a good bed, not sleep. You can have the best of foods, fine dining, no appetite. You can buy the best doctors, the best hospitals, no health. To quote Henrik Ibsen, puts it so beautifully. That we must know what money can do, because if someone tells you wealth is useless, wealth is the scourge of humanity, wealth is the root of all evil, not true. It is the value that you give it. So Henry Gibson says, money may be the husk of many things, but it is not the kernel. It's not the essence. It brings you food, yes, but not appetite. Medicine, but not health. Acquaintances, you will have a retinue, but not friends. Servants, a lot of employees you might have, not necessarily faithfulness. Days of joy, but not peace and happiness. So, renunciation of wealth is when we understand this is what wealth can do. But I'm not going to give it a black market value and sacrifice it for the peace of my mind, because it will not give me peace. But if I think that wealth will give me peace, will give me better sleep, will give me more love, more respect, you are looking for something that that object or that achievement cannot fulfill. The problem is not in wealth, it is in the misguided pursuit of what you want. If you want wealth for food, the best food, yes, it can be helpful. If you want wealth for travel, yes, very convenient. Wealth for comfort, yes, for fashion, yes. But if you want wealth for other aspects, wisdom, equanimity, resilience, this wealth does not give you. A wise person knows both. Now, if we understand the true value of the self, we will automatically start seeking the self. Because we know that that's where true happiness lies. That is where lasting happiness lies. That is where all these deeper pursuits, if that's what we are seeking, if we are seeking food and retinue, fine, pursue wealth. But if you are seeking something deeper, fulfillment, satisfaction, wholesome relationships, then we've got to find a different level to seek. Our whole life has been this. It has been growing up. It has been taking up higher pleasures. If you see this pyramid diagram, at one stage we were at the bottom rung. We were playing with toys, we were playing with games, we were playing with dolls, different things, video games. But then we found something higher, maybe the bicycle, maybe roller skates, roller blades, skis. And when we found that higher desire, the gross and numerous other desires of the different toys, that whole world vanishes. But as a child, you never gave it up. You didn't suddenly call a press release and say, elders, mom, dad, I renounce the toys. You just leave them behind. Why? Because you're engaged, interested in the higher. Now, we got to keep moving to subtler, higher levels of desires. And the more the quality, the less the quantity. Our desires become fewer but better in quality. Isn't this the nature of anything in the world? When something is precious, it is because it's rare. Diamonds, precious because it's rare. Iron, not so much because it's easily available. So we keep moving. We start looking for higher pleasures. So we go from the bicycle to perhaps dating. So thrilling, so exciting. But then from that, we get occupied with profession, establishing our careers, establishing our income, our status. And then we get into family life. Now, why did we leave bachelor life for family life? It is not always the case, but it's because of the promise that family life, having a companion, is far more fulfilling than bachelor life. Short-term relationships, no deeper connection. So we get into married life and family life with the idea that it might be deeper in principle, but that itself is an art in correct relationship. If you get it right, yes, it is. So we keep moving, but somewhere along the way, we get stuck. And we get content with just chasing wealth, attending to family, status, name, power, position. This is it. These are the toys that are making our joys. And we do not stop, or we do not rather seek higher levels. Higher levels would be working for a cause, being unselfish, working for a higher goal, something bigger than yourself, something bigger than material pursuits, extending your emotions. You work for a higher circle. Higher than that is working for ideologies, working for thoughts, ideas. Higher than that is philanthropy. Higher than that is working to find your real identity. And that is the highest goal. And that apex of the pyramid, that top of the pyramid, is that desire for self-realization, for enlightenment. Once you click, your perspective in the world changes. Your priorities change. Swamiji, our mentor, he calls it the paradigm shift. You see the world differently. Lord Buddha, he was a prince before, Prince Siddhartha. And Siddhartha moved out of the palace. Why? His vision shifted. I must find the truth. Leo Tolstoy, he was a nobleman of great repute, was already a famous author, but he went deeper when he had this thought, what am I here for? What is my purpose? What am I living for? So if we want to know the true value of the self, in order to prioritize it, we've got to understand why it is valuable. And there are two reasons. The first is, as we mentioned, it gives us our real identity. And when you know your real identity, you don't go through the roller coaster of that which you identify with. If you identify with your children, you go through the roller coaster of their lives. They fail a test, you fail a test. They do well in a performance, you do well in a performance. What roller coaster is this? You tie yourself to the stock market. You go up and down with the stock market. You tie yourself to politics. My goodness. What a roller coaster. What turbulence. If you tie yourself to the permanent, unaffected source of bliss within you, the self, your real identity, you will know exactly how to relate to anyone, everyone, everything in the world. You don't give it too much value, you don't give it too little value, you give it the right value. You lead a life of renunciation, which is what? Maturity, growth. There's no craving, there is no desperation, there is no black market value that you give to anyone or anything. So you're never held hostage. What a state. And the second part, okay, so the first is, it is our real identity. How can you go through life? How can you relate to the world if you don't know who you are? First. Second, the crucial aspect of why we pursue the self, set it as supreme, because when we examine the goal of life being happiness, bliss, what kind of happiness and bliss does the world offer? Temporary, ephemeral, short shelf life. So no doubt, getting a new car will give you some pleasure, some happiness. But for how long? How intense? You find an interesting person, an attractive person. You enjoy the company of that person. How long does it last? It takes great technique to keep that relationship going, because the nature of anything in the world is that it has a diminishing value. It gives diminishing returns. Unless you are able to relate to it differently, you can perhaps prolong that pleasure, that enjoyment. But that's from you. But the nature of the world, the objects, the pleasures that we receive there, it converges. You get great pleasure, but it diminishes. And that is why those who have experienced the world and have thought about it, who have questioned what is the purpose of life, am I getting happier, they turn philosophical, they turn spiritual, they look deeper. India had an era of Raja Rishis. Raja means king. Rishis means sages. They had an era where India was ruled by king sages. It means people of great wealth, great experience. They had experienced the best of everything. You name it. Food, wealth, companions. They had it all. But they had the right value for it. They knew the limitations of it, and therefore they sought deeper. And each of them would have a guru to help them move towards setting the self, God, as supreme. Now the opposite is, when you start pursuing pleasures within, even if you go from the body to the mind, you get better quality pleasure. If you go to the mind to the intellect, you get better quality stimulation. Now, if you go from the intellect to the spirit, to the Godhood, That's where the bliss is. And to the extent that we identify, to the extent that we set self, God, Atman as supreme, the happier we become. This is it. So it's progressive. And I'm saying, don't take this for granted. Don't just accept it because I'm saying it with so much of fervor. Question it. What has been your experience when you sought things in the world, when you sought holidays, when you sought nightclubs or restaurants? What has been the qualities of those experiences? How much does it still excite you? And look at it the other way around. The more you spend with this subject, and the better you start getting to know yourself, look at the quality of the peace. Look at the quality of the equanimity, of the unbroken bliss and pleasure that we sometimes experience. What a state. Now, from our own experience, shouldn't that make us conclude, let us reset our values and put our investments where we are getting the real return? Doesn't it make sense? Why are we placing so much of time, resources on aspects that don't give us diverging returns? The bliss of the self diverges. Diverges into what? What is the mind looking for? It's looking for infinite. And that's why it is not satisfied with any temporary limited pleasure that this world can provide. In fact, to go a little bit deeper, any pleasure that you experience in the world, it's only shadows of the real self, the Godhood within. I'll explain. Imagine it is a full moon. I think today is a full moon. I think so. I think it is a Purnima today. So it's a full moon, right? And the family decides, beautiful evening, let's spend it outside. And here I'm at the academy. So we're surrounded by the hills, full moon. We have the silhouette of the hills, the trees. Beautiful. And the family's enjoying. And if somebody says to you, as I'm saying to you now, you know this moon light that you're enjoying? There is no light from the moon. What would that family's experience be? What would your reaction be? Now, you know about physics, you know about science, you know about how it works. But can you imagine if somebody doesn't know it? Here they are. It's a full moon. They're experiencing the moonlight, they're enjoying the moonlight, and somebody comes up to them and says, hey, the pleasures that you're experiencing, the light that you're seeing from the moon, there is no light in the moon. What would that person say?
You're crazy.
You're crazy. You're crazy. I'm seeing the light. I'm seeing it directly. How can you tell me there's no light in the moon? And yet the truth is, as hard as it is to believe, the truth is that if you go to the moon, if you go all the way to the source, you will find that it's arid land and dust. So where is that light coming from?
The sun. Reflection.
Reflection?
Reflection of the water.
Reflection of the sun. It is the reflected light of the sun that you are enjoying and calling moonlight. You have wrongly, or that person has wrongly attributed light to the moon instead of the sun. Similarly, you and me, we're enjoying the pleasures of the senses, and we think that the pleasure is in the ice cream, is in the nice clothes, is in the restaurant, and we say, look at it. So much pleasure in this ice cream. Dark Belgian chocolate gelato. Wow. How can you tell me, Sudhakar, there is no pleasure in the world? Have you tasted this ice cream? It's vegan also. I said, I've tasted it. But the truth is, there is no pleasure in that ice cream. You say, or your friends might be telling you already, you are crazy. Why are you going for these Vedanta sessions, Sunday wisdom session? How is there pleasure in that? You come and enjoy a drink with me. Direct pleasure you will experience. Straight away you will experience the Spirit. Why are you doing this long roundabout route? No guarantee. Because the truth is, if you x-ray through that ice cream, if you x-ray through any pleasure, there is no happiness in it. It is dead matter. You put the value in the ice cream, you put the value in the partner, you put the value in the family, you put the value in anything in the world. It's not intrinsically there. So how do you put the value there? You put it through desire. And when the desire is fulfilled, you experience pleasure. No desire, no pleasure. Desire fulfilled, pleasure. It's as simple as that. But you've got to have the desire. And the stronger the desire is and you fulfill it, the stronger the pleasure. But when you fulfill a desire, what happens? So it's not in the object, it's not in the ice cream, it's not in the moon. It's a reflection of what? What happens when the desire is fulfilled?
You want more.
You want more?
More.
Just for that moment. Why are you happy? Just for that moment. Yes, you're right. Another desire pitches up and spoils the whole piece. But what happens in that moment?
No desire.
In that moment, there is no desire. In that moment, you experience peace, pleasure. Where does that pleasure come? It's coming because temporarily the desire is quietened, your mind is quietened, the self, the spirit shines through. Now, the self, the spirit, we don't hear it, we don't experience it because of all the desires. When the desire is quietened, we experience the reflection of the bliss within, which is the self. Therefore, all pleasure, all happiness comes from your own self within. All we're doing is just quietening the desires through material, worldly pleasures. Why not go directly to the source? Get the self, the spirit. If we understand it, our priorities change. Our values change. The self becomes supreme. Jim Carrey, he says, and comedians, they're philosophical because they have this insight into life. He says, I think everybody should get rich and famous and do everything that they ever dreamed of. So they can see that it's not the answer. Friends, let us examine our own experience. That which we're looking for is not in the world, it's within you, in the self, in the Godhood within. If we understand it, we set the self as supreme. No distractions, no interruptions, focused, laser-like precision. That I want thee, only thee, let my heart repeat without end. All desires that distract me day and night are false and empty to the core, says Rabindranath Tagore. Everything else is a distraction. Swami Chinmayananda, our Guru's Guru, used to say, you have no other business in the world except to realize the self. And what are we doing? We're doing every other business except the very purpose for which we're born. Find your inherent Godhood. You are heir to that. It is a human prerogative, a human birthright. How do we do this? How do we get that focus? There's a story of a king, and he was looking for a successor. He didn't have any issues, he didn't have any heirs, so the king put out a notice to all of the kingdom, and he said, I am going to host an elaborate fair, the best fair and festival that the kingdom has seen. But I am also looking for a successor. So the person who's able to go through that fair and find me, he will be named the king. This was the condition. So of course, everybody was drawn to the fair and festival because they want to be king. They want to be the queen. So they were drawn there and they rushed and they went looking. But there were different exhibits, there were different stalls. Some people got sidelined. They saw a Maserati stall and they saw that and they got sidelined by that. And then somebody went and they saw that there was Taylor Swift performing and they got sidelined by that. And then some others went a little bit further and they found Louis Vuitton bags on sale. And they went over there. And each person, there was paddle court, beautiful paddle court. Some people got sidelined by sport. They started playing paddle. All these different exhibits were there. One young person, young man, he set finding the king as supreme. He was focused. He did not allow himself to be distracted by the cars, by the songs, by the concerts, by all the things that were there at the festival and the fair. He kept looking, until he found in one remote corner of the kingdom, there was a small temple, just a small dwelling with an idol, and there was a priest doing a ritual by the idol. And he went up to the priest and he tapped him on the shoulder, and the priest turned around and it was the disguised king. He had found the king. He had become a king himself. Similarly, life is like this. There are many distractions, there are many temptations, but all of these are fleeting. And we've got to go through life, x-ray and keep the focus, and ask ourselves, what is supreme? What is our priority? Where does absolute happiness lie? And don't stop anywhere you can't until you find it. Setting self as supreme. So what are the practical guidelines? In order to establish this value, we need to study, we need to reflect and understand the value of God, self, Atman, spirit, pure consciousness. How do we do that? And the suggestion is, every morning, ideally first thing that you do in the day, dedicate that half an hour to researching, reading about the spirit, about the self. And what I would suggest to you is ultimately the e-learning course. Now, why the e-learning course is because it is a structured program that helps you reflect, helps you provoke your thinking, and takes you from the beginning, from where you are, deeper and deeper to understanding and hopefully clinching the self. So it is the 3-year course that I have been through back in 2001 to 2004. It's this 3-year course that's on repeat here at the Vedanta Academy, but it's got a curriculum. So for the first time, we've got a curriculum for self-development, for self-realization. And it takes you through 12 books. Those are the texts. So what I'd recommend is sign up and enroll for the e-learning, because you will get access to a person who's gone through the path, not myself, in the sense the lectures are by my teacher, and has structured the books. So you get access to the teacher's thinking, where he explains paragraph by paragraph through the book so you can find that depth. You can go deeper and deeper into the subject. So first thing is e-learning. So when you wake up, you know exactly what needs to be done for the day. Get onto your e-learning lecture. Do you need to do it every day? No. You can do it at your convenience. You can do it at a time that works for you. You get access to the whole library of lectures. But what I'd recommend is half an hour, a little bit every day. Build the consistency. If you're not ready yet for the e-learning lectures, I would say get hold of the books. So the books is you with your thoughts understanding what's been written. So you could start with perhaps the first 4 books. Fortunately, we're going to be starting with a study, but more of a summary of the themes of the first book next week, The Fall of the Human Intellect. Now you read that book, it seems almost a prophecy of what we're experiencing now. My teacher wrote this in 2008, but sees all the problems that come with a lack of thinking and intellect in humanity. The second book is governing business and relationships. The third book is when the mind takes over, the Holocaust of attachment, just devastation, destruction in our personal lives, in our larger lives of nations. And then the fourth book is the crux of the philosophy. Vedanta Treatise, the Eternities. It gives the whole path. But the idea is to surrender to structure, surrender to curriculum. So we build a foundation where we are reflecting and these thoughts and ideas become our values. So now we know it. We have an idea, but our values have not yet changed. We might have a value for exercise, but when you know it or when it's a real value is when we stop the junk food, when we stop ducking or missing the exercise. Then it's a value. So we've got to reflect on it until it becomes that. The third aspect is, and what might give you a real encouragement or momentum, is plan a visit to the Vedanta Academy. It's a place that has been designed for people who want to seek more in life, who want to seek the truth. And if you come into this community, the whole schedule, the menu has been designed for one purpose alone: find the self within. So plan that. So I would recommend for those of you who are international, plan an annual visit to the academy. Maybe during one of the retreats, come for a week, come for 2 weeks. If you can manage biannual, wonderful. 2 weeks, twice a year, excellent momentum that it gives you. So if you're international, yes. If you're within India, what's stopping you? Come every month, spend a weekend, or come for 3 weeks at a time. Whatever is your availability, whatever is your inspiration, use the resources available. And the last one is fine-tune your satsang. Satsang means your company. Be with company and people that support your truth. Sat means truth. Sang means company. The company of truth. Find those that help you, take you closer to higher, that help set self as supreme. And one avenue of satsang is, at least every Sunday, we get together. This is satsang. This is our week. We get to
Thank you.
pleasure. We get to see each other. We get to interact with some inspirational material. But really, as much as you may enjoy the Sunday wisdom sessions, it is your individual study and reflection that's going to change your values. So the Sunday wisdom sessions, I'm not sure if all of you are aware. We'll put it up on the screen. They're also available as a podcast. So all the previous sessions, they've been recorded. They're there. You can go through. And this is the last quality that we're taking up. So we've covered, I never thought that we would spend one session on one quality. We've covered 35 qualities. So all the sessions are there. You're welcome to share. It's available for the public. So it's open to everybody. Next week being a new text where we're starting from the beginning, it might be a nice opportunity to invite friends or family who you think may be interested. But otherwise, the recordings are there. So to close our session today, how do we set self as supreme? The first is try and make it a daily practice of some time for yourself with this knowledge about God, the Supreme. So, daily reading or the e-learning course, ideal. Doesn't have to be in the mornings, but great. Second is that will filter into we start dedicating all our activities towards the highest. Third, if we can put it up on the screen, the visits to the Vedanta Academy. And the last one is our weekly sessions, the Sunday Wisdom sessions. So look at your day, look at your year, and see how we can make that paradigm shift from the ego to the self. How can we set the self as supreme? Why? Because it's what we're looking for. So I leave you with a question. What is supreme to you at the moment? Maybe do a hierarchy. Put it in order. You can put your family, number 1. You can put self, number 5. That's fine. Let us know where it stands. And let us start working to move this self as supreme further up the order. But at least let's see where our priorities are right now. You might say that health is my priority, but the way we're conducting our lives, it might be more at number 5 than at number 1. So let's be aware of what our priorities are. What is supreme to you now? Prioritize it. See where spirituality, self, Vedanta comes in. And let us start putting the effort to bring it to number 1. This concludes our study of the 35 qualities of a bhakta, a devotee of God, a seeker of truth. And that's why at the end of this study, Lord Krishna finishes the chapter by saying, these 35 qualities, they are immortal. They are timeless. They don't change. It applied back then 3,000 years ago. It applies right now. Because any person who embodies these qualities is on their way to finding the self, is on their way to finding the truth. And Lord Krishna, identifying as the self, as the spirit within, says, the more you embody these qualities, the self reciprocates. Means oneness, love. You become one with that Godhood within you. Your identity merges with the spirit, the pure consciousness within. That's what it's saying. It's reciprocal. You put in the effort, the self reveals itself to you. So go through the earlier sessions, find out which of the qualities really inspired you, and let's try and put a few of those qualities into our day. It could be hating no being, being friendly, compassionate was one of the qualities, being forgiving. Why hold on to all that emotional weight? Let it go. Be light, be pure, unselfish. Be dexterous, skillful, meticulous in whatever we do. Let us try and be balanced and equal to censure and praise. There are so many great qualities there. See which ones inspire you. Firm-minded, stiramatihi. And fittingly, we end with the last one. Above all, set self as supreme. Mat Paramaha. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.